Hi, I'm Eddie Capparucci, and welcome to another edition of Getting to the Other Side, helping couples to navigate the road to recovery. This is a program that's designed to help those who are struggling with sexual addiction, as well as their partners who are dealing with the betrayal, navigate that road to recovery and to bring them to a place of healing and forgiveness and hope for a new beginning. Last time we were discussing what happens after D-Day. And what were the expectations of those who are betrayed? And today we're gonna turn the tables, and what we're gonna really look at today, we're gonna start to examine what were the expectations of the betrayer. So we'll be talking about that. Once again, I just want to give a quick little disclaimer, as just to make it very easy for me as we go along here. I'm going to be talking mostly about the betrayer as he or a male, and as the betrayed as females or she. I understand that there are women who struggle with this, and I also understand there are many men who have been betrayed and hurt. But again, this is just strictly to make it a little bit easier for me along the line. So again, it's good to have you back. I'm glad you're able to join us. Last time we were talking about her expectations, those people who've been betrayed. And if you recall, what I was saying was the idea that they don't have any, really. Their world has been completely rocked, and they just don't know what to expect. I'll give you an example. We had a woman who came in with her husband, and it was the day after discovery. And she sat there on the couch and, talking to me, and she goes, I thought I had a fairy tale marriage. I thought I had everything that a woman could have. I have a husband who's supportive and caring and kind. We had a beautiful home. We have 3 wonderful kids. We don't have any issues in our life. We are so blessed. And today I find out that that's all just is false. Her world was completely shattered in a matter of moments. And because of that, this is where the struggle really becomes. Because again, they're expecting one thing, they're living it. They're living with an expectation of this is good. And now they turn, and now it's like, can I trust anything? Can I trust anything at all? So that's part of what we talked about last week with her expectations. And today, we talk about what his expectations are. For the men who come in and the betrayed, the people who are doing the betrayal, they have some expectation, but you know what? Just like, their spouse, they also don't really quite know what to expect. They don't know what they're going to get from her. Okay. How's she going to manage this? How are we going to heal? How do we move on from here? So while they do have expectations, they're not really very healthy or realistic. For example, one expectation that's universal for this group is let's move on as quickly as possible. Can we just get going? Can you just forget about it? Put it in a box like I do, that little stuff. Can you do that, please? Pretty please? No, I can't. I can't do that. I can't just move on. I can't just pretend none of this happened, just like you can't either. And therefore, you have to understand that, if you have betrayed someone, there is a timeline for healing. And, professionals will tell you that can be anywhere between 1 and 3 years, depending on, what the relationship was like prior to the betrayal, and also what was the extent of the grievances that were done. And sometimes it goes even longer than that for it. And this is where most guys really struggle. Okay. I really believe that it is easier for a man to deal with his sexual addiction and his recovery than it is to be able to deal with how do I help my spouse. And this is where, again, we see most of the struggle. We start seeing arguments. In fact, I probably spend maybe, I would say 40% of my time up front with clients, helping them navigate the landscape of What does it look like to help you, for you to walk with your spouse to fix all of this? Because again, they don't know how to deal with the hostility that's coming at them, or to deal with the pain that they see. But see, the problem for most guys in this case is they're not really seeing pain. They're just seeing the hostility. They're just seeing the anger. They're just seeing the person who breaks down and just, is uncontrollably sobbing. They have to see the pain. You have to see the pain. That is the only way that you will be able to navigate and to help your partner. So again, the idea of moving on quickly, okay, yeah, would it be nice? You don't think she wants to do that too? She'd love to be able to do this. She'd love to be able to go and look, hey, can I have a lobotomy so I can just forget about all this and move on? Yes, but it's not going to happen. And therefore, as I tell the betrayer, one thing you really need a lot of, patience. You need a lot of patience, because stuff's going to come at you from all over. And as I said last week, these women here, they have a barrel of rocks, and they're going to be throwing them. And you got to be able to stand there and take those rocks the way it is. Another expectation that, the betrayer has is, they want to be forgiven sooner rather than later. Just forgive me, please forgive me. And again, that's not, it has to play its course, because in order for forgiveness to come, there has to be grieving. And let's face it, as couples, we don't always get to see each other grieve very much. Maybe if we lose a parent or something like that, but we don't see a lot of grieving. And in this case, grieving is so different, because they're not just grieving the fact that someone went off and did something inappropriately from a sexual standpoint. We're grieving a relationship. We're grieving dreams that have been lost and shattered. And there, once again, you have to allow for the person who had been betrayed to go through the grief process. We don't want to do that if we're the betrayer, because it's too painful for us. It's too difficult for us. But that, again, is part of what needs to be done. If you are too premature in trying to help them grieve, what you're doing is just kicking the can down the road. In fact, grieving actually is healing. And that's what I tell my clients. When she grieves, she is healing. Because what's happening, the more she talks about it, the more she deals with it, what's happening is she's desensitizing. But you have to let that play out. And then, with all of that, the idea of forgiveness can only come with two things: time and positive actions. You need to be able to demonstrate those things, because as I tell my client, your words mean nothing. Now, I know that may sound really harsh. I understand it sounds harsh, but you know what? When you're sitting there saying, but you know what? I'm really so sorry, and please forgive me, and I promise I'll never do it again. I mean, basically what they're hearing is blah, 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 blah. I mean, why in the world should I believe you now after all this time you've been lying to me about what you've been doing in the past? What has changed? What kind of miracle have you undergone that I should all of a sudden just say, yes, okay, that's fine. You promise you'll never do it again. They can't do that, and they shouldn't do that. Again, it is up to you to make the determination to be able to say, all right, I am going to allow the time that needs to be done for her to heal, but I'm going to make sure that through my action. One question I have that I tell folks all the time that they should be asking themselves: how will this action or inaction that I'm thinking of doing, how is it going to impact my spouse? Because again, I see people who just, in fact, I actually had clients in the other day where he had betrayed her. And they were having a lot of financial issues and situations. They can't agree on paying bills the proper way. So he decided he was going to go and open up a bank account and start putting away money from a part-time job to pay off their car loan. And he was going to surprise her with that. Well, so he started doing this. And then he comes home one day and she's sitting there with an envelope from the bank that had a debit card in it. And she's like, what is this? And his response, like a deer in headlights, is, I don't know. He goes, I think maybe that's just one of those solicitations that people send. And she goes, oh, I don't think so. It has an account number on it and has your name on it and such. And she goes, I'm going to call the bank. And he allowed her to go through the whole process of calling the bank, not saying anything, before he finally admitted, oh, yes, Jim, I'm sorry, I opened it up, and this is the reason why. So now, as he's sitting here telling her the reason why, what do you think the likelihood is that she's believing that's the reason? Not very high, right? It's just not, because again, and here it is, a guy who, again, he just doesn't understand what the actions will bring. There should be no surprises. She can't afford any surprises. Everything, transparency, being open, being vulnerable, sharing, even though you know you're going to get hit with a rock. You need to be able to do that just to demonstrate I have changed or I am changing. So the words that you have, again, are not what goes on. The last, expectation he has, which again is not a realistic one, is once I'm forgiven, it's all done. It's over. We never mention this again. We just move on and we'll be living happily ever after. No. See, this is part of your history. This is part of your relationship. It'll always be there. And what will also be there for her, unfortunately, is something that we call triggers. And we don't know when triggers are going to come. We don't know how they're going to come. In fact, I've heard stories of people being triggered by the most craziest things that you would never imagine that could be a trigger, but that's what happens. And usually what will happen over time is that the trigger doesn't have as much of an impact as it did from the very beginning. And the person who's been betrayed has learned how to be able to self-soothe themselves so that they don't have to lash out. But what they do is they'll come forward and maybe just say, today was a bad day. It was rough. It was kind of hard. And that you can be able to sit there with them to go through what they did. But it's not over. It's there. And you can't sit there and go bury it in the backyard as much as you want to. So that gives you an idea of some of their expectations of what they have. So what we need to do is we have to take the person who has done the betraying and we have to develop realistic expectations for them. And the first one is, hey, you got two jobs. One is your recovery. That has to be a priority in your life, your recovery. You need to demonstrate to her how much you want to change yourself, because it's through your work. That is one of those positive actions that I talked about before. But the other part that you have is helping her to heal. And so let me talk to you a little bit about that. One of the biggest issues I see again for the person who's been betrayed is they allow their emotion to trump those of the person who has been betrayed. For example, perhaps maybe she's raging about an affair partner and she's asking all kinds of questions that you've heard over and over again, and you start to feel guilty and shame, and there you just start to wilt away and you just are like staring, blankly at her, and she's just going on and she's like, what do you have to say? Nothing. No, I just can't. I can't do this right now. You're just leaving her there. You're leaving her there. You left her there alone again. You've abandoned her once more. And therefore, you have to be able to learn how to take your feelings, your emotions, when she's grieving, and put them on the back burner so that you can be there for her. What that is that sitting with her in her pain. I have a client tell me a great story. It was several years ago. his wife. He came home one day a little bit early, and he hears the bathroom. He hears the water running up in the bathroom. He goes up, and she hears the water running in the shower, but the bathroom's dark. He walks in, and here she is sitting in the shower, just sitting on the floor, weeping, doing it. He takes off his shoes and just goes in there and sits right down next to her. Just sits next to her. And they just sat there. He goes, we sat there for maybe 5 minutes, nothing. I'm just watching her cry, and I didn't touch her. And all of a sudden, her head just falls over onto his shoulder. And he wraps his arms around her. He sat there with her in his pain. And that's what you need to do. But part of that means you need to be observant. Because what we want to do, we want to bury our head and we want to run away. Our shame and guilt, we want to be far away from all that. We can't be. We have to be very in tune for what's going on. The second realistic expectation that we need is we're seeking transformation. And what I mean by seeking transformation is we're not just trying to get rid of or learn how to manage our sexual addiction or pornography addiction. That's a gimme. That has to happen. That's a must. But there's also other elements of our life that we need to change. We are looking for a complete transformation. We want the new guy. We want the new guy. And why do we need the new guy? Because she can't go back to the old one. The old one's not safe. He will never be safe. And therefore, we need the new one. So what does that mean, growing in different areas of our life? Well, one, that's about how do I become engaged and not just present when I'm home or I'm with you. I hear a complaint a lot, especially with women, they go out in public with their spouse, and all of a sudden they're like, you know what? I think you're paying too much attention to everything else around here and the people. And he's like, no, I'm not doing anything. I'm not looking at anybody. What she's really saying is, you're not paying attention to me. I don't have your attention. Your eyes aren't just on me and you into me. And that becomes part of, okay, I'm not just there, I am engaged. And that becomes very difficult, because in many cases we see the folks who are the betrayers, especially those who have the addiction, they don't have high emotional IQs. They don't really know how to do that. So we have to train them in that area to be able to help them. The other thing is learning to be emotionally aware of what do I feel. That's another one. We have many people who are in this category. They have low emotional IQs. They can't tell you what they feel beyond the fact that I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm afraid. That's about it. They can't tell you what they truly are feeling. And even if they can, they're so fearful of being vulnerable and to share it. So therefore they don't. They just keep it to themselves. Somewhere along the line, they were told, ooh, your emotions are not good. Worse yet is that they get very, very stressed when people try to share emotion with them. So therefore, they're going to look to shut it down. They're going to try to withdraw. They're going to try to fix it. They just don't know how to validate. So that's something that needs to change, something you need to do differently. At that idea of, the way I communicate with, a lot of the guys who come in here, I say, what it is? You got your head down and you're running through life. That's what it is. You got your head down, you're just running through life, and you have no idea what's going on around you. And we need to get that head up, and we need to be focused. We need to be mindful, especially about those that we love, those that we really care for. We're going to look to get you out of your own head. Again, a lot of people who suffer from these addictions, they are in their own head. They grew up that way for the most part. They didn't have somebody who really teaching them how to live. They're teaching them, basically, how do I survive? And so therefore we need for you to become curious. You need to become curious about other people, about other things and that. Other passions that you may have. You need to take action. We talked about some action before, but there's also action like get involved with the kids. Do things around the house. I remember one client, a woman said to me, she goes, you know what? I never love him more than when I see him interacting with our children. Oh my gosh, she goes, what that does to my heart, the way it warms it. And, and he was like looking at her, he's like, are you kidding? She goes, no. She goes, I love it. I love when you do that. You're like, wow. He goes, maybe I need to start doing that more. Yeah, you do. Not just for her to warm her heart, but for your kids to do that. Look for things to do around the house. Don't wait for somebody to tell you to do something as simple as take out the garbage or go fix something. Look for things, again, head up, trying to be observant. And emotional maturity. We need to become emotional maturity, okay, or be emotionally mature. We weren't taught that. Nobody's teaching us. We weren't fed the nurturing that needed to be fed, and with that, we become kind of just shells of people. And we're missing so much in life that we really could be enjoying. We also want to look at this and say, you know what? How am I going to become a better man overall for my legacy? Because it is a legacy. To be not just for being a better husband, a better father, a more godly man. It is about becoming the man that she wants and expected. It's about the man who you feel good about. So, that's part of what's there and what they're trying to expect. But I think another aspect of all of this comes down to, as you begin this process, and we're going to start going into more of this next time, is gaining insight. Because to me, that is where we really start to make true changes in our lives. Why do I do the things I do? Why do I think the way I think? Why do I feel the way I feel? And it's with those insights that I now empower myself to be able to make better changes in my life. If I don't know why I do something, it's really difficult to try to figure out what the solution to all of that is. So we're going to cover off a little more about that. But that's another question that's really very interesting for those who've been betrayed, okay? Because again, most betrayers don't have an answer to the question, why did you cheat, watch pornography, sexting, visit prostitutes? I don't know. And that drives the betrayed partner crazy. And what they do in many cases, they start taking it upon themselves. They start blaming themselves. Oh, it must be something I've done. And that's totally wrong. It's incorrect. And we need to fix that. And the way you fix that is that you take responsibility to gain the insight that you need so that you can answer that question for yourself and you can answer that question for them. So that's what I have for you today, Tammy.
Great stuff. Thank you so much, Eddie. There's so much that you were talking about, like even starting with the fairy tale marriage, and I think, I think that is so often the case is, I think people with an addiction can have this mask of like everything is good and even be, doing the lip service to, I love you and da da da, like can almost act in a way to make it look like that there's this marriage. And I think, some partners, like you kind of just push away the things that might look like cracks in the relationship. So it's a huge loss. It's a loss of, like you said, it's the loss of the fairy tale. It's the loss of the vision of, when I said I do, this is what we thought we were going to have. This is what I thought I had. And it can never go back to that. You can't get the genie back in the box, but, can you learn to do things differently? Absolutely. I think that the lies, when you're talking about that, I was like, the lies are the things, like even the lies about the bank card, it's like, the lack of trust and the lies for no reason other than I don't want to get into trouble. And so I'm going to, I'm just not going to tell you, where this poor partner is calling the bank to find out when he knows the information, but it's craziness. And it drives everybody crazy. So, but that just really erodes at any trust that might be rebuilt. I love the story when you're talking about the partner that was in the shower, and and he steps into the pain, and he doesn't try to fix it. Because I know for addicts, like, we do want, like, okay, well, that's behind us. I've been in recovery for 3 weeks. This time it's different. You should trust me. Let's, why can't you move on, and all of this. And so it's just, what a lovely story of being willing to, to be in the pain, in this space, and not try to fix it, not go, oh, get over it.
I see a lot of people who are addicts don't know how to deal with that pain. That's the
Absolutely.
problem. They don't know how to deal with it. They don't have that emotional IQ to be able to say, okay, how do I validate? How do I empathize here? What do I do with this situation? And therefore, it becomes so nerve-wracking for them that they want to, again, as I said before, shut down, run away, or how do I shut you down? And
Exactly.
again, and what they don't realize is all you're doing is you're just postponing healing, because you're just kicking the can down the road, as I said before. Where, as opposed, if you could sit there, if you could learn to do that and live in art, if you can learn to sit with somebody's pain, you can see them turn around quicker in their recovery. So that's why guys are kind of shooting themselves in the foot. I had one other story I didn't share. I'm going to share right now, though. I had a couple come in, and this was several years ago, and so I said to her, I turned to her and I said, so tell me what's going on, and why are you here? She goes, well, I can't talk about it. And I go, well, okay, that's going to make it pretty difficult for us to do anything here. And she goes, no. She goes, I go, well, why can't you talk about it? And she goes, well, because he told me on Thursday, and he goes, I have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in order to ask any questions I want, but after Sunday night, I'm forbidden to ask anything else about it. So here it is Tuesday, and she's like, I can't talk to him. And I turned to him and I said, what's that all about? And he goes, well, you know what, how often are we going to go through this? How often are we going to go through all of that? He goes, I gave her the time, I answered the questions, and I have nothing more to say. I said, well, I go, you know what? I don't think you need me. I think you need a divorce attorney, because that's where you're going. And after some discussion and such, he was able to see that what he was trying to do was wrong. And he was able to sit and allow her to start that grieving process. But men are afraid. They're afraid to do it.
Well, yeah, but I mean, addicts are afraid. It's like when you were talking about emotions, we can't tell except if we're happy or sad. I couldn't handle any of it. I could not handle a good emotion or a bad emotion. It was all just too intense for me. And because addiction is about numbing out, about escaping, about not dealing with things. And so what you're talking about, is maturing into emotional maturity. It takes vulnerability. I have to be willing to sit with my discomfort of my emotions in watching you with your emotions, so like if in the shower situation, it's like, okay, the shame I feel for having caused you to feel that, that broken, that hurt or whatever, like I have to be able to go, I'm just going to be here with this rather than I need to escape because I am really, this is horrible and I can't deal with it. You were talking about being curious, and it really is being curious about others. You also talked about having your head down, and I thought, man, that's, it's all about me and all about, this, if I'm in my addiction, and to learn to attach and to see others and to connect with others, and even the story of like, the mom going, there's nothing better than seeing you connect with your kids. Yeah, that's huge, and not just those connections. Change how we interact with people, but also, what an impression on those children, and and changing the legacy, for the future if I'm able to connect. Because if I'm in my addiction, if it's a porn addiction, well, I'm in, I'm in my office and I'm working, but I'm not with the family. I'm not, I'm not outside, I'm not taking a walk, whatever, I'm not interacting. And even if I am out there, I'm still thinking about all of this.
It is, that is the number 2 complaint that the person who's been betrayed will come in with. First one, of course, is the fact that they've been betrayed. The second one is he or she, they're not here. They're never here. And I mean, they're here, they're literally next to me or in the house, but in their mind is not here. They are
Right.
not engaging. They're not aware of us. They don't know what our needs and our desires are, you know, and as you put it there, even if they are not doing some sort of work, they're thinking about something or they're fantasizing about something or they're because they can't live in the moment. They can't live in the moment. And again, these are all things that need to be taught. And that's why I go back to the whole idea of becoming a more well-rounded individual. It's not just about let's learn how to manage the addiction. It's how do we change everything about how we deal with relationships.
Well, and deal with life. I said my addiction permitted me to not deal with life on life's terms. My recovery has changed that, because life is messy and relationships are messy so but now I have tools to be able to use, and it is a process, and I had to learn them, and I had to be willing. I had to be willing to make mistakes and be okay with that. I had to be willing to get help because somebody had to teach me. I didn't know it. I didn't get that stuff growing up. I didn't, or whatever. I had a deficit in that learning area, and I had to learn. And and I had to be willing to stay in the struggle because, and not just throw in the towel and go, well, clearly I can't do this. I mean, that'd be really easy to do. And go back to the things that work, and so much fear about, can I really do this? Can I actually do this? So there's the fear of doing it and the fear that I'm going to fail. It's such a process. And I think recovery is such a gift to ourselves. And I think it's scary. I know I was terrified, I don't know how to do this. What is it even going to feel like? And so I go back to the vulnerability. I have to be willing to, dip my toe in and go, okay, but gosh, the rewards, if I stay with it, the rewards are such a gift. So
I'll share one of those rewards. I heard from somebody this spring. One of my clients came in one day. He'd been working with me for about a year and a half, and he goes, I goes, there's something strange happening. Tell me, are the leaves a brighter color of green this year? And I'm kind of looking out the window I go, no, they're about the same color. He goes, they just seem so more vibrant, more alive. I go, that's you.
yeah,
Well, that's you.
yeah,
You are more alive.
yeah,
You're more observant. You're focusing on the things that life is about versus being in your own head, and that head is down and you're just running through. So you're absolutely right. Taking that transformation, not just only improve relationships, it improves the way we live.
yeah, a much richer, fuller life. I mean, I know I would have died early from addiction, but at the end of the day, like I think of it as the tapestry of my life is just so much, more vibrant and more. It's just richer because of all of the tools I've learned from recovery and the opportunity to engage with, with people and connect. So we have a question. So let's take a look. How do you deal with the shame of staying? Staying is the new shame. People say the most awful things. They assume I'm stupid for staying, that I'm afraid of being alone or stay for the finances. I know I shouldn't, don't know how to accept my choices. We've been in recovery a few years now. We are becoming better people. My spouse is doing the work. I just can't get past what everyone is saying.
Yeah, so therefore you look at this. Yeah, this is what I call the stupid girl syndrome. Right? That's what happens. That's what you feel like because everybody's making you feel that way. The most important thing that was said here, though, was that, you know what? We're becoming better people. And my spouse is working. All right? Good for you. Because, you're right. It doesn't matter. These people who are talking to you this way, they are not safe people. Now, I don't know if they're parents. I don't know if they're relatives. I don't know if they're friends or peers or whatever. But at some point, you need to start to stand up to folks and say, stop. You know what? I'd love to engage with you. I want to continue having this relationship. But you know what? My relationship between me and my husband is off the table. We're not talking about this. I've made a decision and you need to accept it. So you either accept him and me, or then you can't accept him and me. This becomes a point of you putting up boundaries, about being more assertive with people. Because again, what's very important is the fact that you guys are making progress. You are coming along the pathway to get to the other side. And you can't let anyone else's opinion or action to impede that in any way. So again, it becomes, all right, let's take a stand. You're going to stand up. Hey, look, I know you care, and you can do it in a very loving way. I know you care. I know you're worried. However, I've seen change, and this is my decision, and I'm going to ask that you be respectful of it. So therefore, accept what it is. I don't want to talk about it any longer, and let's just move on. And if you can't do that, well, then I have to reevaluate this relationship.
And it's one of those why we always say, be careful who you tell, you know, about what's going on, because, you know, you're going to be sitting at the Thanksgiving Day table with them and things like that. So, you know, clearly these are people in your circle. And I think what Eddie said, you know, where you say, you know, I know you care about me. And I think it's fair to say, I know you care about me, and I know you want what's best for me. And what you're not seeing is, you know, like, we have this history together, you know, it isn't that black and white, you know, it isn't that we have, you know, that we have, you know, no, like, it's all bad or it's all good. It isn't. It's like there's all these nuances. And I remember the person I married, and, you know, he's becoming a better person. He's becoming, you know, we're both becoming better people. You know, the recovery process has been, you know, a blessing for both of us, because, you know, we're changing and growing together, and we're getting a foundation that many people don't ever get, because, you know, there's always these lies and things like that. So I think that there's a way to do that. You know, one of the drop-in groups that's been requested on this platform is an old lady posse group. And I don't know how old you are and all that, but they, you know, they talked about, we want, you know, because we're in these relationships and we're committed to staying in them, and we want people that will, you know, support us, and, you know, across the board with that, and not be those naysayers that go, oh, you should dump the bum, and all of that type of thing. So I'm working on that, you know, to have that, but please know that, you know, I really believe that the drop-in groups on, you know, that are provided on this platform, including there's one today at 12:30 Pacific time, that's a moderated drop-in group. And those are people that are, you know, betrayed partners and are there to be supportive of each other, and, you know, and not, you know, not be the naysayers. But, you know, at the end of the day, you know, it's between you and your husband. And I hope he just, you know, I love what you said about, you know, we're becoming better people, you know, so I think just hold on to that and just go, we're working on becoming better people. I found for myself, you know, do I want people to like me and all that? Sure. I mean, that's nice. But, you know, at the end of the day, if I'm true to myself, if I'm true to my relationships, that's what really matters, you know, and the rest of it is just kind of noise. Dr. Rob talks about, you know, there are some things that are just bug splats on the windshield of life. And, you know, I kind of go with that. It's like, you know, this person, you know, blah, blahing at me. It's just a bug on the windshield of my life. So,
yeah, you know, and in many cases, again, people mean well, but they don't understand because they can't walk in your shoes. And again, as opposed to saying, okay, you know what, I understand what a difficult decision it must have been for you to decide, I'm going to see if we can work this out. Instead, they just look for the way of, how do we run away? And, you know, and again, I commend you for the actions that you've taken, because running away is not always the solution. In some very small cases, it can be and it needs to be. But here you have somebody who's working, who's doing his work, who's showing a commitment. He's moving to becoming the new guy. And therefore, people start to respect that of you. And that's why I said it just takes, you know, that sense of putting it out there on the table and saying to them, you know what, I want to be in community with you, but you need to learn to accept us and what we're doing moving forward.
and hand them the Pendants book that Dr. Rob wrote. You know, or I should just have these out, but your codependence, moving beyond codependency, because I'm pixelating. The art that I've got behind me is a client from Seeking Integrity's Los Angeles program. He did the artwork, and I got permission to use it, but I thought it was so cool. So I've got that. But I'm sorry, I'm pixelating. But codependence, moving beyond codependency, because there isn't a flaw with you that you love this person. That you know. So invite you to get support. Hopefully we can be part of your support network, and you know, the rest is just noise. So we've got another question. I appreciate what you're saying about staying with the pain rather than running from it. My husband seems to have the opposite problem. He can't escape the pain and shame once he steps into it. That leaves me unable to share my feelings with him because he's completely dysregulated and already overwhelmed. What advice do you have for addicts coping with the overwhelming emotions of early recovery?
Yeah, see, he's basically doing the same thing, except he's gone to the other side. He's still not there for you. He can't be there because he's just so overwhelmed with himself. And therefore, he needs to make sure he's doing the work he has to do and learning how to regulate himself. And part of that is to deal with the idea of the shame and the guilt. Okay, yes, I've made mistakes. But it's more about not so much of looking back, except to find out why those mistakes developed in the first place. But how do I move forward here with this? You know, and I understand that, and I don't know again how long you guys have been involved in this, because that plays a role in all of it, and where you are in your grieving stage. But I think sometimes just to, if you can, in a very gentle way, acknowledge to him, look, you know, I'm trying to share with you what I'm going through, and I can see how much it's bothering you. I got it. Can we take a break so that you can go soothe yourself, and then let's come back, and maybe you can focus on my pain and what I'm doing. You know, again, we're putting like a speed bump up there. That can become easier the longer you're in the process of recovery. Sometimes it becomes very difficult to do that in the early stages because everything is just so heightened, and therefore it becomes difficult to say, oh, wait, let me slow it down. Let me step on the brakes and let me be rational, because that part of the brain is not functioning right now. You know, we're functioning back here, the limbic system, and you have the amygdala flying and going crazy. So, but I would see if you can try to take breaks when you see that happening, for him knowing, look, I'm going off for a very short period of time just to regain my composure so I can go back in and then to be there for you.
So a couple of things. You mentioned this early in recovery. And so shame is really part of that. However, you know, going into the shame spiral is not productive and is really pretty selfish. Dr. David and I talked about this on the webinar on Monday night. You know, that can be a whole thing, because then again, all the focus is on me, because like, oh, I feel so bad, I'm so shameful and all that. So so when you talk about stepping away and soothing yourself, I want to caution that would be like, call your sponsor or something like that. It's not go masturbate and feel better. So I just want to I want to caution how we go soothe ourselves. So, because we're talking about sex addiction. So, but one of the things, you know, the first thing I thought of was, you know, the 12 steps help us go through, you know, get through that pain and the shame, and give us tools to help be able to emotionally regulate. So, you know, writing my 4-step inventory, I wrote about all those things that were, you know, the blah, and, you know, and then 5th step was sharing it with my sponsor, you know, and then, you know, finding spots to make amends. The first 9 steps really gave me a foundation, and then 10, 11, 12 are the maintenance steps, you know, that are ongoing. But, you know, so, but getting connected to a sponsor, getting connected to a group, Dr. Rob has talked often about you guys can't really be the support people for each other in early recovery, so having the ability to communicate in a way, that isn't, further triggering or detrimental to your relationship, that, finding some ability to communicate, but to be able to really step into each other's pain. Probably, you get to be angry, you get to be really angry, and you need support where people can just hear you. And he needs to do his work and go, gosh, I'm so filled with shame and I've got all this. And he needs people to be able to hear him. And then, then as you get further in the process, and then it's more able to step in, and to do that,
Right. Yeah, and as I said, it's very difficult at the beginning to try
yeah.
to do any of that. It's just hard because emotions are running amok and have to be careful with all of it. So, but there's also, again, if we go through all of this, is to understand, because again, there's not a great understanding because we're so focused on the sexual, destruction that has happened, but there are many other factors that are playing in this, including the fact that, addicts for the most part have a low emotional IQ, don't know how to regulate themselves, don't know how to empathize. There's lots of it, and he can't give you what he doesn't have. And
Correct.
to your point, Tammy, is you need to go and start to find that. He needs to be able to go and to get the resources so that he can learn to be there, because he learn to sit with the pain. And that can be, like you said, whether it is through the 12-step program, it is through the, a sponsor, it's through counseling, whatever, reading, but he needs to be able to deal with his own shame and guilt so that he can be there for her.
Yeah. And the things that helped me get through the shame was doing my 4th and 5th step, because I told things and I thought, people were going to run screaming from the room, my sponsor, and they were like, Mom, man,
Yeah.
no big deal. And I was like, oh, really? It was so freeing to be able to do that. But addressing the pain that he's caused you, as well as your relationship, all of that, damage, it's challenging, but that's the point of this, is that we learn to be able to show up for life, and and for the people in our lives. It's, it isn't, addiction is all about escape. It's like, I can't deal with it. I'm going to run over here and, I'm going to numb out, I'm going to escape in fantasy or whatever I'm going to do. But, but this is learning to go, okay, this is life. And it's so much more meaningful than whatever it was that I was escaping into.
Yeah. Again, we go back to what, the title of this program is, like getting to the other side. And when you get to the other side, when you go someplace new, then what you're going to see is not, oh, it's just not that he's engaging or she's engaging in those sexual behaviors any longer. What they are, we have a richer connection. We have a deeper bond than we've ever had before. And that is what is so thrilling about what is to come as you get down there. And again, you can't see that at the beginning. You'll see that as time goes on, if you're both doing the work that you need to do. Those who have been betrayed, if they're grieving properly, as well as those who have betrayed, that they're doing their work on their recovery, plus their guilt and their shame. But again, we're going someplace new, folks. We're not staying where we were.
So being with people that can guide you and support you, and him being with people that can guide and support him, that really helps, because you're going to go, oh, other people have traveled this road before us. Okay. They found a way. Yeah. I can give you all kinds of examples of people, like you even talking about, the shower. Those people, are going to make it because they're finding ways to continue to connect with each other, even in the pain, and that's just awesome. So it's really about, finding the emotional support to help each of you and both of you as you travel this
Right.
road.
Just think about what their actions have communicated. You weren't there for me. You weren't there for me. Wait a second. The vow we took was you're going to be there for me, and you're not there for me. So now when you can't sit with them in their pain, you're delivering the same message. You're not there for me. You're not there for me. And again, so what you do, the same hurt and the same level of intensity of pain is going on. And that's why they need to start to see, oh, yes, you will be dependable. You will be reliable. You'll go above and beyond for me in order to help me heal. And that's how you get to the other side. That's part of the equation here.
Well, and I was thinking too, it's like, for somebody who's uncomfortable in being there, I mean, a little bit of it is like, what am I afraid of? What, like, if I just can't cope with this, why can't I cope with this? What am I afraid of? What's the worst thing that could happen? And that basically doesn't happen. And if I, like, I'm not going to explode, from having to deal with the emotions. It's going to feel
They
uncomfortable.
feel like it.
I know. I completely understand that. But it's one of those things where if I just go, like, it's going to be uncomfortable. Well, I've been uncomfortable before. I can, like, I just have to stay here in the moment. I have to stay connected to this person. I have to be willing to listen and not go, stop, and the more I get practice, that's why I say, working with a sponsor or somebody, I get to practice those things,
Yeah.
in a relationship that is less volatile hurt, I mean, there's less going on in it. I get to go practice these things because I didn't have practice. I needed to go learn these things. So
yeah, we talked a little bit about it last week. We were saying, it's kind of ironic that, here you have the person who's addicted, and one of the big issues that they have is they struggle with, negative emotions. And so now spouse finds out, and what are they going to be facing over a
negative
long,
emotions.
right, for a long period of time? And rightfully so. That is not to say, oh, keep your emotions to yourself. That's not what we're saying. It's just that it's kind of ironic that the thing that got them to where they are today, that inability to deal with the negative stuff, is part of what they're going to have to deal with now. And that, again, demonstrates, get to your point, Tammy, you know what? It's not going to kill me. It's not going to kill me. It feels like it for a period of time, but I can deal with my emotion. I can process oh my gosh, I can be vulnerable. I can be vulnerable and not worry about, it's going to be embarrassing, or somebody's going to laugh at me or belittle me or just brush me off and blow me off. I can be vulnerable. And now we go back to the idea of what we were talking about before. Now we're living life. Because you think about when you break free of addiction and you look back and you see all the lost opportunities for living, because we really weren't living. We were so caught up in this little thing of darkness, and everything else around us just almost didn't exist. And now we have a chance to blow that thing apart and to explore. And as I said before, be curious about everything in life in general. And now we are living to the fullest.
Yeah, and the leaves are greener, and I mean, life is more vibrant. You talked about kicking the can down the road. If we don't sit with the discomfort, all we do is kick the can down the road. And I think the can gets bigger. It gets full of cement too while it's going, because we just compound the problem. So being willing to just go, okay, I'm going to deal with it now, even though I don't want to. If I'm able to be present,
right?
That's what's required. And I think all those little successes, like you said, I can be vulnerable. If I'm willing to be vulnerable, I go, wow, I've been able to be vulnerable. I was able to show up. Well, that's progress for me. So like that's rather than being in a shame spiral of like how terrible I am and how well, I showed up. It was only for 60 seconds, but I showed up. Well, great. I bet I could do it for 2 minutes. You know, I mean, all of those things are just progress.
Because what are you building? You're building confidence.
Right.
Building
It's
confidence.
skills. Yeah, I'm gaining some skills on, you know, how to do this. And will I do it 100% right? No, you know, but that's okay too. Learning to go, okay, I tried that, that didn't work. My partner's even more mad at me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, okay, I didn't do that great. You know, I was trying, but I didn't do that great. You know, can you give me some pointers on what would have been helpful? You know, ask. So. Any other questions or comments? We're almost out of time, but if there's a quick question, we can. So I mentioned the drop-in group. So there's a drop-in group at 12:30 Pacific time today for partners. We've added some additional offerings. There's one on Friday morning. There's another men's group tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. I think Pacific time. But there's more coming. I've got a bunch of different opportunities I'm trying to find moderators for, but hopefully we'll be adding those to the website soon. The webinars tonight at 5 p.m. Dr. David, who subbed in for Dr. Rob on Monday night, he has his weekly webinar. So there's just lots of good stuff here. We want to be here to support you, and we appreciate, Eddie, that you are here again this month. So he'll be back next month with more on helping us get across, moving across. So until that time, if you want to reach out to Eddie, his bio is on our sexandrelationshiphealing.com site. You can reach podcasts and things. And if anybody's looking for a couples workshop, a 3-day men's workshop, or the Seeking Integrity Men's Treatment Program, seekingintegrity.com has information on that. And don't hesitate to reach out to me. So, all right. Thank you. Until next time, Eddie. I appreciate it.
Same here, Tammy. Bye.
Bye.